What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode. This is the third breakdown of about 30 breakdowns that are coming right your way because it is NFL draft season, my favorite time of the year. Before we jump to the breakdown, if you guys could take a minute to check out my Patreon, show a little bit of love, keep this show going, like, comment, all that fun stuff, man. Anything helps support this show so we can grow together. I am talking about a USC wide receiver today. This wide receiver class is very, very interesting because, anybody can have almost any five of the top receivers ranked as their number one receiver. And it's not because it's a necessarily bad wide receiver class. It's just kind of a weird one. There's a lot of people that don't have prototypical size, weight, speed. It's kind of a very strange wide receiver class. But my number one receiver in this class is a guy named Drake London, who towers at 6'5". He's 210 pounds, which is pretty weird. We don't see a whole lot of receivers weigh just 210 at 6'5". He was a 4-star receiver coming out of California, decided to stay home and go to USC. This past season, before breaking his ankle, he had a 91.3 grade from PFF, and that ranked third out of 1,004 receivers in college football. Yeah, that's definitely saying something about the kind of season this young man had. There's so much to love about Drake London when we kind of look at everything, and there's only one really big con that people have against him, and that's why we're going to start with cons today. The biggest thing that people gripe about him is his top end speed, and it's a legitimate concern. I think that he has a really big attribute on his side, which is going to help with the top end speed. But you do worry about when he was running skinny posts and running go routes, the corners are pretty glued to him. And we've seen guys with, not that breakaway speed have success in the NFL, and then we've seen guys who just are constantly covered and can't make the contested catches in the NFL like they did in college football. The absolute nightmare scenario for Drake London is J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, right? A guy who was a second-round pick. Drake London's supposed to go in the first round, but a guy who was a contested catch machine in college and really has done absolutely nothing in the league. He's probably going to be out of the league very, very soon. So that's what you really concern about if you are a Drake London fan, okay? But here's what I think helps him out in this kind of scenario is, one, even when he's covered, he's open, okay? He's a great contested catch guy, which, again, can play a little bit of a difference when you're playing against kids who are 18, 19, 20 years old, and you're playing against guys who are just league veterans. He has very strong hands. Now, he does have a tendency to drop the ball sometimes. You do worry about his 8% drop rate, which was very, very high up in college football. But there's times where he makes these catches where, the DB has their hands on it, he has his hands on it, and still makes the play. He's fearless. This guy does not care. He will leave his feet to go get the ball, doesn't care what safety's coming over the top. He's a real old school receiver in that manner. But I think the biggest thing that's going to help with his top end speed is he's a very good route runner for a big receiver. He knows how to dip his hips. He knows how to drop them. Usually we see long receivers either have that top flight speed or they're kind of one trick ponies where they can kind of threaten you with a little bit of speed and then run a dig coming across the middle or jump balls in the end zone. I do think he's a pretty nuanced route runner as far as that's concerned. We saw him make 19 contested catches in college football, which ranked first in the nation by a lot. We saw him force 24 missed tackles, which was sixth in the nation for the wide receiver position. This guy's an absolute dog, man. This guy will not be brought down if he does not want to be brought down. So I absolutely love that as far as that goes. We talked about the top end speed being a concern, him being skinny for 6'5". Usually when we look at those 6'5" receivers or 6'4", 6'5", we're kind of seeing, more so that 225, 230 range. But there's people that think 210, 215 is the biggest he's going to get, which obviously kind of really narrows down his comps of what we've seen in the NFL, which is probably best case scenario is like an AJ Green. T. Higgins is a little bit thinner for a tall receiver. So that's a little bit of a concern. We talk about the broken ankle, which isn't going to help the top end speed. And like I said, sometimes, he makes these amazing catches, but sometimes he drops the routine balls, which is definitely frustrating, man. If it's a 3rd and 8 and you're open on the slant, you got to bring in the ball. But I think that's just concentration things that you can kind of clean up because he does show the ability to be a great hands catcher. I want to take a minute to show you about 4 or 5 plays that I think makes Drake London the special prospect that he is. And we're going to see what some people believe is his fatal flaw in that long end speed and why I don't really think it's that big of a deal. So let's go ahead and jump to USC versus UCLA, which is the first clip that I want to go over right now. We're going to see him run a classic big man route right here, a little post action. The quarterback's going to get it to him right between the safety and the drop in corner. The fact that he's able to stop on a dime like that shows that he has good body balance. And how many tackles does he break to get into the end zone? So right there, he's going to make, I believe that's Quentin Lake's miss. Okay, he's going to break 2 arm tackles. He is going to break another 2 arm tackles, another arm tackle, breaks 5 tackles to get into the end zone. The guy is just a strong receiver. Right here, man, that's probably not a good decision by the quarterback. But let's watch this again. Right here, there's no way that he should catch that ball. That is just the will to want the ball more than the opponent. We're going to slow down this next play. This is just a little 5-yard slant. But right here, he does a lot of things that you don't see a college 6'5 receiver do. Plants his foot in the ground, gears it down in between a breaking safety, and then he knows if he blows by the safety, he has another sitting DB, and he's not worried about the contact. He's fearless, man. He's going to sit in there and take the punishment and not really care about it. The first time I watched this play, I was like, okay, great. Nice contested catch, takes the hit, hold on to the ball. Fantastic. I thought it was a pretty routine pitch and catch until watching the replay, and I kind of realized some of the subtle nuances. So right here, you're going to see the corner playing outside leverage. So an out and up should never work. Okay. But he's really going to sell it, okay, just long enough to get that corner to chop his feet. And again, he doesn't have the long end speed, but it's enough to get the job done. Catches it. That corner does a really good job to sneak his hands in between the ball, but he's going to hold on to it with those strong hands. The NFL Combine is days away, and I always think the Combine's a little bit overrated, but for someone like a Drake London, a 40-yard dash is going to be so pivotal for him. If we see him run sub 4.55, that's going to probably lock him into a top 15 pick would be my guess. If we see him run a 4.6, only 0.05 of a second slower, that could drop him into the later half of the first round. So it's weird things like that with these kinds of guys that just the subtle difference of numbers is going to play a pivotal role. But when I watched Drake London, it was 2 minutes into his tape I was watching that somebody jumped out as a clear comparison for this guy. And to me, it's Brandon Marshall. When I watch Drake London, I see a lot of a young Brandon Marshall there, man. A guy who's just relentless, got that dog mentality, is constantly hungry. But I did add another guy in after watching more and more film, and I think he's got a little Keenan Allen in him. Keenan Allen's one of the best route runners in football today, okay? And I don't think Drake London's there by any means. But I think that, with a longer receiver and a deceptive, route runner, a guy without top end speed, I think he does have a little Keenan Allen. So I think he's more so Brandon Marshall, but I do see both of those receivers. And when I look at good team fits for him, I think the Raiders would be a great fit. We know Derek Carr likes to throw up those balls, and he doesn't care if you're covered. Derek Carr is going to take the shot if he believes in you. I think the Chargers are another good one. I've seen people want Williams to go to the Chargers because he can flat fly. But I think I'd love to see Justin Herbert air that ball out to him. I think he'd be a perfect complementary piece to Devontae Smith in Philly. I think those two would be a beautiful 1-2 punch that I would love to watch Jalen Hurts work with. And then the last team that I thought he'd be a pretty good fit on is the Saints. I think it kind of makes sense if they don't want to go quarterback in round 1 with their 18th pick. I think that he could pair well, be their number 1 receiver or their number 2 if Michael Thomas comes back. But I think any team would be lucky to have somebody like a Drake London. So, let me know what you guys think. Where do you rank Drake London in your wide receiver list? Do you think I have it right, man? Drop a comment, drop a like, all that fun stuff. Check out my Patreon. Help me, I'm poor. And guys, I'll see you next time.